Last week, I demonstrated how you can research your options and come up with your list of schools for graduate education in the US. That was step one of the process. If you missed it, go watch that first video. In today's video, I will address the second step to studying in the US for free, which is preparing and submitting a successful application. Quickly before I continue, these are some analytics from my channel. 85% of my viewers did not subscribe to the channel. Guys, subscription is completely free. Simply hit the subscribe button right now, and that will really help this channel. To the 15% of viewers who subscribed, and my viewers in Kenya, Peru, the US, Nigeria, and Argentina, you guys are simply the best. Also, a special shout out to viewers in Kenya for topping the charts this week. To you, I say, Asante Sana. Let's get into the video. Hello everyone, and welcome to today's video. If you're new here, my name is Obed. I have a PhD in chemistry and some experience working as a professional scientist here in the US. I started this channel to talk about free education in the US, personal growth, professional development, and personal finance for students and young professionals. In today's video, I'll guide you through step 2 of how you can secure fully funded admissions in universities in the US. And step 2 focuses on preparing and submitting a successful application. Of course, this comes after you've already made the list of schools you are interested in attending. To prepare and submit a successful application, there are 12 steps you need to follow in order to be well organized during the process and essentially or ultimately become successful. The first thing you need to do in this process is make a well-tailored curriculum vitae. For starters, do not add unnecessary information such as your date of birth, marital status, gender, or religion. None of that information helps the school in any way. For example, here is a sample of what your CV should look like. Note that this is simply an example and not a template you must follow. The key thing here is to notice how the document is structured without too much noise going on. Here you can see it starts with your name at the very top with a sequential arrangement of your names from the first to last. It is also nice if you can add a professional summary section where you briefly write about yourself as an excellent potential graduate student. List out your educational history as usual and be detailed by adding the names of your research or project advisors from your undergrad. Next, under work experience, list out everywhere you have worked starting from your current job. I cannot emphasize this enough. Make sure you have a current job at this step because it will send a red flag if you're jobless at the time of your application. If you have any publications in your field, make sure to have it listed. If you do not, there's no problem at all. However, if you have presented your work before, even though it's your final year project, your thesis defense, departmental presentation at a conference, or any professional presentation at all, list it out in this section that is highlighted as presentation. Also, mention any awards or honors you may have received in recent times. Do not mention awards from your secondary or high school days. No one cares about those awards at this stage of your life unless you're applying for an undergraduate degree. Finally, as far as CVs are concerned, mention your volunteer experience, research funding if you have any, and certainly mention the professional affiliations you might have. The second step in preparing your application is to craft a compelling statement of purpose. In your statement of purpose, write a clear and concise statement that outlines your academic background, research interest, career goals, and reasons for applying to the program. Tailor each statement to the specific program and make sure to emphasize how your interest matches that of faculty members and their research in that department. Now, make sure your statement is compelling and original. It is important that your statement is original. I know that writing is not always the easiest thing to do, but always try to settle down and come up with a statement that is truly yours. The people reviewing your application have probably read countless SOPs from your country in the past, so you do not want to be caught replicating someone else's SOP as your own. That will automatically lead to rejection and they will never tell you the real reason why they said no to you. Step number 3 is to develop a writing sample or portfolio if it is required. Some programs may require a writing sample, a portfolio, or some supplemental materials. These documents allow you to demonstrate your ability to communicate effectively. It also provides the admission committee with some tangible evidence of your academic abilities, research skills, and your potential to contribute to the program. This is often required for art and humanities-based programs such as English, creative writing, fine arts, and maybe student affairs. Therefore, take some time to develop a writing sample or a portfolio if this step applies to you. Step number 4 is to obtain a copy of your previous degree or degrees. Here, make sure to have your certificate translated to English if the US program requires you to do so. This one is pretty straightforward and easy to understand, so I'm not going to say much for this step. For step number 5, you should obtain a copy of your transcript or transcript if you have multiple degrees. Again, have it translated to English if needed. In Nigeria, for example, I know some public schools do not like releasing transcripts to their students. So in that case, if the school you're applying to accepts unofficial transcript, go ahead and ask your university for a statement of result instead. The statement of result is a document that shows all the classes you have taken with your grades and final CGPA, meaning this document should be enough for the purpose of securing your admission as an unofficial transcript. Step number 6 for preparing and submitting an application to US schools is to write the English test, but only if it is necessary. Generally, I recommend you avoid taking standardized tests as much as you can. There are 4 main tests that could be requested. Those are the GRE, GMAT, TOEFL, and IELTS. The last 2, TOEFL and IELTS, are English tests, and sometimes it is very hard to avoid them if you are from a non-English speaking country. Good news is that there are exceptions in some cases. Make sure to verify with the program if they absolutely need you to submit an English test. There are some countries in Africa, Central America, Europe, and Australia that have an exemption for this test. In fact, many African and Central American countries are not required to take this test. So use that to your advantage if you're from one of those countries. To find out if your country has an exemption for a specific school, simply go to Google, type in your school's name, and add the words English test exempt. Oftentimes, if you click on the first or second link, you will find a web page where the exempt countries are listed for that school. This information is very easy to access. If we try for another school, you can see that similar pathway will give you the exempt list as shown here, for example, using Miami University. For the GRE and GMAT test scores, if your goal is to not spend any money during this process, please avoid any school that requests these scores since there are countless programs that no longer require them for fully funded admissions. Okay, before we continue, if you're enjoying this video and do appreciate the amount of work that goes into making this content, click the subscribe button down below if you haven't done so already. This is completely free and will help this channel to grow. Please take a moment to do that and we can get right back into the video. Step number 7 for preparing and submitting your application to US schools is to request for recommendation letters. For this step, choose recommenders who can speak to your academic abilities, research potential, and personal qualities. Feel free to provide these recommenders with relevant information about your academic and professional achievements. There's nothing wrong with you doing this. It is completely normal if you do because they deal with so many students. I generally advise to make an outline or bullet point of things you want a recommender to address and offer him or her that outline so that they do not have to start your letter from scratch. This will help them to write a letter that is not generic and also make each letter that goes out on your behalf to be unique and show a different aspect of you as a well-rounded applicant. For example, here is a recommendation letter I submitted on behalf of a student who applied to Stanford last fall. The letter should show the logo of the recommender's affiliation on the top left or really anywhere at the top, followed by the recommender's name and contact information. The letter should be addressed to the graduate admission committee of the school. You can see here that I used little subsections to highlight specific aspects of the applicant's achievement. First, I addressed how I am related to the applicant in the first paragraph, how long I've known them for, and in what capacity. Next, I addressed their academic achievement, followed by their research achievement, and wrapped up the letter talking about other life accomplishments that they might have achieved under my watch, all while addressing how much I believe this student will become a leader in the future. That is an example of a wholesome recommendation letter. Step number 8 when preparing your graduate application is to contact potential advisors via email. I cannot emphasize this enough. Do not reach out to them on Twitter, LinkedIn, or even worse, TikTok. Reach out to them only through their email address, which you can easily find on the program's website. Make sure to only contact professors whose research aligns with your interest. In your email, express your interest in their research inquire about potential openings in their lab for the coming academic year, and ask them about collaboration opportunities and potential mentorship. Do not make this email long and complicated. Instead, keep it short and simple. That way, you are more likely to get a response back from these professors. The main goal of doing this is to introduce yourself to someone in the school and have someone who will be looking out for your name in the pool of applicants for that year. Make sure to send an email to at least 2 to 3 professors per school. Be respectful, keep it simple and straight to the point. A bonus tip for this step is please do not start your email with "Dear Professor." That sometimes looks weird to American professors. Instead, simply start the email with "Hi Doctor," last name, or "Hello Doctor," last name, then get straight to the reason why you're reaching out to them. After sending those emails, step number 9 when preparing your application is to create an applications checklist. I really love this step. Now, this is a checklist that helps you keep track of schools that you are applying to, including the application deadlines, entrance requirements, and submission status. For this particular one, I have prepared an interactive template as a gift to you, my viewers. This is what the template looks like. This template will help you to stay organized and proactive throughout this process. In this template, you can see I have used color legends and toggle options simply for your convenience. Assuming you are applying to 10 schools based on my advice from part 1 of this video, you can make the top 5 schools in your list the ambitious options, and we can assume that the next 5 are your safe options. That said, I have columns meant for overall status of the application, the program of interest in a specific school, the application deadline, a column for completed CV, statement of purpose, letters of recommendation, test requirements, and research mentors you might be interested in for each school. Note that these are also the professors you should send an email to. Make sure you email every one of them. Definitely add the program website and keep track of your application password for each school, as well as the username if you like. Below, you will see that LOR and SOP have been defined. And finally, the way the template works is that when you begin an application, you can toggle on the in progress option, and the whole row for that specific school will change its color to yellow. And you can do this accordingly for any other application you begin. If an application was delayed for any reason, simply use the delayed option and the row will change to pink accordingly as shown here. And when you eventually complete an application, you can simply select completed and the color will change to green in response. If this seems like something that can be useful for your application process, you can download this template by clicking on the link in the description section. While doing that, remember to subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Subscription is absolutely free. Just hit the subscribe button down below. For step number 10 of this process, ask for help with review of your application materials. There is nothing wrong with seeking feedback and assistance from your mentors, friends, or family when reviewing your application materials. Make sure you're asking people who understand the American system and can actually give you useful feedback. Use this opportunity to address any weaknesses or areas for improvement in your application before your final submission is done. Yet, do remember that it is your application and your story to tell. So, regardless of what feedback you get from people, feel free to use it or discard if that feedback does not align with how you wish for your application to be perceived. Ultimately, keep an open mind so you do not miss out on useful corrections that may come your way. For step 11, when preparing your applications to US schools, figure out application fees. Before you spend time creating any application portals, first, make sure you have plans on how you will have your application fee taken care of. First, do your due diligence to make sure you ask the program coordinator about possibilities of securing application fee waivers. If they stated clearly on their website that no application fee waivers are available, then do not ask them about it because it will reflect badly on you, because that will mean you do not know how to do basic research on information that is already available online. Next, you can consider asking for help from family and friends after proving to them that you have done your due diligence with the process. Typically, I recommend showing them you are also committed by saying you will cover some of the fees but need help with the application fees for other schools. This way, they also know that you are serious about this process and you have some skin in the game. Once you're feeling confident about your application materials and ready to apply, then start step number 12, which is create an application portal. Here you have to create an application portal for each school in your checklist and answer any survey questions they might have for you. Remember to keep track of the username and password for each school using the template I have provided to you for free. After this, simply upload your application documents, add potential research mentors when prompted, and list of people that will be sending your recommendation letters. These are usually your mentors from whatever country you're applying from. And then The final thing you need to do is to click submit or apply in whatever form that comes. If you get to this stage of the process, congratulations. For those watching the video up to this point, there is a bonus step for you as an appreciation of your diligence. Step 13 in this process is to send follow-up emails to potential advisors. Remember in step 8 where I asked you to contact advisors? In this step, you should send a follow-up email to those professors whether they had responded to your previous email or not. In this new email, let them know you have applied to the program and that you are very excited for the prospect of working with them in the future. Chances are some professors simply forgot to respond to your email because they are very busy. So this follow-up email will remind them of you and show them how committed you are to the program. Next, you should be ready for any potential follow-up interviews, as that can also happen. Some professors might want to speak with you before they offer you an admission. This is usually a good thing. Just make sure you have a stable and secure internet connection so that the interview will go smoothly. Please note that applying to graduate school in America is similar to applying to a job and schooling opportunity at the same time. So take this process very, very seriously. That said, I want to send a huge shout out to Ms. Shade Adebayo from EducationUSA in Abuja, Nigeria. Without EducationUSA and Mrs. Shade's help, I probably would not have made it to the US or even be here today making this video. So if you have never heard of EducationUSA before, they are in more than 175 countries and they are the most reliable resource you should go to when seeking guidance during this process. You can start by attending any of their free orientation sessions happening around you by simply searching the words Education USA Center near me. And I believe that should help, or that should be a good place to start. Well, that's it. Make sure you like this video for visibility and please subscribe to the channel using the subscribe buttons down below. Do not forget to share this video with your friends who could benefit from it and hit the notification bell so you get notified when future videos get released. Remember to always pursue growth, and I'll see you in the next video.